Good day, grade 12 ABM students. Today, we will continue our discussion about the time value of money. People invest their money to receive returns in the future. The time value concept helps individuals or businesses to analyze what will be the value of money in the present and in the future. The present value is the original amount borrowed. The future value is the principal plus the total interest earned over a stated period. The interest is the amount of money paid for the use of borrowed money. Present value and future value are both involved in the time value of money. Both consider three factors: the principal, the interest rate, and time. Let us start our discussion with future value of money. Consider the given example. You invested 10,000 pesos for 3 years at 9%, and the proceeds from the investment will all be collected at the end of 3 years. Using a compound interest assumption, interest will be computed as follows. First, the value at the end of year 1 is equal to 10,000 pesos, your initial value, plus 10,000 pesos multiplied to the 9% and then multiplied to 1 year. So you have there 10,900 pesos, which is derived from 10,000 pesos times 1 plus 9%. We therefore say that given an interest rate of 9%, the future value of 10,000 pesos after 1 year is 10,900 pesos. Similarly, the future value of the 10,000 pesos at the end of year 2 will be equal to the value at the end of year 1 plus the compound interest earned in year 2. So the value at the end of year 2 is equal to 10,900 pesos plus the 9% of 10,900 pesos. So you have there 11,881 pesos, which is derived from 10,900 pesos times 1 plus 9%. Relating it to our first value or our original value, which is 10,000, we can say that it is coming from 10,000 times 1 plus 9% multiplied again to 1 plus 9%. So, therefore, we can say that 11,881 pesos is derived from 10,000 multiplied to 1 plus 9% squared. The future value then at the end of 3 years is determined as follows. So, the value at the end of year 3 is equal to 11,881 pesos plus the 9% of 11,881 pesos. Let us continue our pattern. Relating it to the value at the end of year 2, we have 11,881 times 1 plus 9%. Then we have, relating it to our second value, we have 10,900 pesos times 1 plus 9% times 1 plus 9%. And then, following the pattern, we can say that 10,000 pesos, which is our original value, is multiplied to 1 plus 9% 3 times. Therefore, 12,950.29 pesos is equivalent to 10,000 pesos times 1 plus 9% raised to 3. The future value of 10,000 pesos invested for 3 years at a rate of 9% is equal to 12,950.29 pesos. Therefore, we use the general formula below to determine the future value, and that is future value is equivalent to present value multiplied to 1 plus r raised to t, where r is the interest rate and t is for the time period. To get the future value, we multiply the initial value or the present value by 1 plus r raised to t, which is referred to as the future value interest factor. So 1 plus r raised to t is our future value interest factor. Or we can just simply say 1 plus r. A future value table can be developed using the formula present value multiplied to 1 plus r. Simply find the intersection of the relevant time period presented in the rows and then the relevant interest rate presented in the columns of the table. So on our case, we have 3 for the time period. And then we also have 9% for our interest rate. Using our example, the FVIF given 3 years at the rate of 9% is equivalent to 1.2950. This is the intersection of time period 3 and the interest rate 9% in our table. So it means, to get the future value of our example, we have 10,000 pesos multiplied to our value, which is 1.2950. To make cash flows comparable, we either determine their future value at a common future date or compute their present value today. Most decision makers choose to get back the present values since the decisions are made today. To get the present value of a lump sum amount, we go back to our future value, which is equivalent to present value multiplied to 1 plus r raised to t. The future value in the formula is the expected lump sum amount, while the initial value is actually the present value. Rearranging the equation gives us the formula for the present value of money, and that is present value is equal to future value divided by 1 plus r raised to t. To get the present value, we multiply the future lump sum amount by 1 over 1 plus r raised to t, which is referred to as the present value interest factor, or the PVIF. The PVIF is also called the discount factor, and the whole process of determining the present value is referred to as a discounting. The interest rate used to get the present value is denoted as the discount. Let us discuss this example. Your father told you that he will entrust you with the funds for your graduate program education. He gave you 2 options. First, receive the money now in the amount of 200,000 pesos. Or the second option, receive 500,000 pesos 10 years from now. The available investment opportunities to you provide a 10% rate of return. Which option would you prefer? To address this dilemma, you either determine the future value of the 200,000 pesos and then compare it with the expected cash flow of 500,000 pesos 10 years from now. Or compute the present value of the 500,000 pesos and compare it to the 200,000 pesos which you can receive today. Let us start with the present value. Choosing the second method will require you to get the present value of 500,000 pesos. So the present value is equal to future value divided by 1 plus r raised to t. Our future value will be 500,000 pesos divided by 1 plus r, wherein our rate is 10%. And then our time will be 10 years from now. So our working equation is 500,000 divided by 1 plus 10% raised to 10. Computing this value, the present value will be 192,771.64 pesos. Take note that this is less than the 200,000 pesos. Since the 200,000 pesos is greater than 192,771.64 pesos, which is the present value of the 500,000 pesos, you will choose to receive the 200,000 pesos today instead of waiting for it 10 years' time. Getting it now will give you the opportunity to grow the investment at the rate of 10%, and the related future value is expected to be greater than the 500,000 pesos. To validate this, let's compute the future value of the 200,000 pesos. For the future value, we have future value is equal to present value multiplied to 1 plus r raised to t. In this case, our present value is 200,000 pesos. Multiplied to 1 plus 10% because that is our rate of return raised to 10. So we have 200,000 pesos times 1 plus 10% raised to 10. Calculating the value, we have 518,748.50 pesos. And we all know that this is greater than our expected value, which is 500,000 pesos. A present value table can also be developed using the present value interest factors. Simply find the intersection of the relevant time period presented in the rows of the tables and the relevant interest rate presented in the columns of the table. Using our example, the PVIF given 10 years and a rate of 10% is equal to 0.3855. This is the intersection of the time period 10 and the interest rate equal to 10% in our PVIF table. So to get the present value of our example, we have here 192,750 pesos is derived from 500,000 multiplied to our PVIF value, and that is 0.3855. Please take note that our computed value is 192,771.64 pesos, which is approximately equal to 192,750 pesos, which is our real value from our example. How do you decide if you are taking the point of view of the person dispersing money? In this case, you will choose the cheaper option or the one with the lower present value. For example, your school's annual tuition fee is 100,000 pesos per year if you pay at the start of the school year. Another option is to pay for the tuition fee at the end but at a higher amount of 110,000 pesos. Let us say that the prevailing interest rate is equal to 12%. To make the cash flows comparable, we compute for the present value of our 110,000 pesos. For our computation, we have present value is equal to future value divided by 1 plus r raised to t. Our future value is 100,000 pesos or 110,000 pesos because you're going to pay it at the end of the school year, divided by 1 plus 12%, or just simply use our PVIF table. Using the 1 year and then 12%, find the intersection, you have there 0.8929. And then, the computed value will be 98,219 pesos. The present value of 110,000 pesos is equal to 98,219 pesos, which is cheaper than paying 100,000 pesos at the start of the school year. So, if you forgo paying at the start, you can invest the 100,000 pesos for 1 year at a rate of 12%. This will grow to 112,000 pesos because we all know that the 12% of 100,000 is 12,000. adding it to our original value, which is 100,000, we will have 112,000 pesos. After a year, which is more than enough to pay for the required 110,000 payment at the end of the year. What if the interest rate is 8%? So let's check our present value. So will your decision be different if the interest rate is 8%? Let's find out. So here we have future value is equal to 110,000 pesos, but this time we will use 8% for our rate. So referring to the PVIF table to get the value of 1 plus r raised to t, we have there 101,849. So on our first case, our interest rate is 12%. For our second case, our interest rate is 8%. 101,849 pesos is more expensive than the 100,000 pesos option at the start of the school year. At an interest rate of 8%, you should choose to pay the 100,000 pesos immediately instead. If you insist on paying at the end, then your 100,000 pesos will grow to 108,000 pesos, which is not enough to cover for the required payment of 110,000 pesos at the end. So, it depends on the interest rate. If you have 12% for the interest rate, you will have 98,219 pesos for your payment. But if you have 8%, you will have 101,849 pesos. Now, let us discuss multiple cash flows. To a certain extent, all our examples contemplate a single lump sum cash flow at the end of the term. If multiple cash flows occur at different times, the more difficult it becomes to compare these cash flow streams. Getting their present values becomes more imperative in order to make an appropriate decision. Simply get the present values of the individual cash flows and add them together. Since the present values refer to the same date or the present date, these are value additive. For better understanding, let us consider this example. You are contemplating on purchasing a new laptop computer which is worth 70,000 pesos if you pay for the whole amount today. The computer store also allows buyers to pay the installment, requiring the buyer to pay 25,000 pesos annually at the end of each year for the next 3 years. You regularly invest your savings in a time deposit account that provides an annual return of 5%. You are now deciding whether to avail of the installment plan or pay for the whole amount today. So what will be your decision? You can follow these steps in addressing the problem. First, draw a timeline illustrating the relevant cash flows and the timing of these cash flows. So as you can see, you need to pay 25,000 per year. So you have there 25,000 pesos on the first year, then another 25,000 at the second year, and then for the last year you also have 25,000 pesos. Now, compute for the present values of each cash flow using the appropriate interest or the discount rate. And then you have to add the individual present values and compare the sum to the cash price, which is 70,000 pesos. So for our computation, we have 25,000 pesos divided by 1 plus r raised to t, and then add it again to 25,000 divided by 1 plus r raised to t plus 1, because that will be for your second year, and then plus 25,000 pesos divided by 1 plus r raised to t plus 2 for your third year. So substituting our value, we have 25,000 divided by 1 plus 5% raised to 1 plus 25,000 pesos divided by 1 plus 5% raised to 2. And then 25,000 pesos over 1 plus 5% raised to 3 will also be added. So you have there 23,810 plus 22,675 plus 21,595. Getting the sum, we have there 68,080 pesos. Now, let's analyze. We all know that this is cheaper than the 70,000 pesos cash price, which means you should pay through installment instead. Simply adding the 25,000 payments may lead you to think that the 70,000 is cheaper, but the more relevant figure should be the present value of these multiple cash flows. Thanks for watching this video. If you have questions or clarifications, you may send them on our class group chat or you may raise them during our Zoom meeting. Good luck and God bless you all.